One thing I always notice is for people who don't like Black Lives Matter, they always shorten it to BLM and they never want to say Black Lives Matter. So sometimes I respond to those people to get them to say Black Lives Matter instead of BLM.
This is Ben Palmer, a comedian who really knows how to get a laugh out of us.
When NASCAR posted about how Chris Stapleton is going to perform at the NASCAR Awards, somebody named Paul commented and said, well, Chris is a documented supporter of BLM, so he is perfect for Mr. Wallace and NASCAR. Then Tom said, I won't be watching, both of them sold out. Then Paul said, exactly correct. And then Bob's Large Machinery commented and said, do you have a personal problem or something? I don't understand why people keep tagging my company BLM and saying negative things. I'm just trying to make large machinery.
Palmer, a damn pro, always, and I mean always, goes out on top.
Paul's like, I've never heard of you nor your company. BLM is for Black Lives Matter. Thank you for supporting Black Lives Matter, Paul. But please, don't mention us again.
Bingo. Nailed it. But he has a lot more in his catalog of content that you should absolutely check out.
We are trying to figure out next steps, and my next step would be to get rid of all Confederate flags. There should be no individual that is uncomfortable showing up to our events to have a good time with their family that feels some type of way about something they have seen, an object they have seen flying. No one should feel uncomfortable when they come to a NASCAR race.
Many who support the Confederacy were big mad at black NASCAR driver Darrell Bubba Wallace when he used his voice for the betterment of our society.
No! So why do you carry that flag? Because this is my heritage. My family fought to save their farm under this flag. Who was working that farm? My family was. Who was working the farm? They were poor. Do you know how much a slave cost back then?
Oh, I wish I was in the land of cotton. No times there are not forgotten. Look away!
Because you see, these folks, when you peel the onion, reveal their true selves.
The Confederate flag, a fixture in NASCAR Southern culture for decades, now no longer permitted a place in the sport.
It's true, but the honeymoon period would be upended.
Officials found a noose in the garage of driver Bubba Wallace.
NASCAR President Steve Phelps released this photo of a noose found in Bubba Wallace's garage at the Talladega Superspeedway last week.
From the evidence that we have, that I have, it's a straight up noose. The FBI has stated it was a noose over and over again. NASCAR leadership has stated that it was a noose. I can confirm that. I actually got evidence of what was hanging in my garage.
Because of his efforts, there were reports that there was a noose found in Wallace's garage at Talladega. It was a humongous story. Afterwards, Wallace's fellow NASCAR drivers marched on the track with Bubba, showing solidarity in the face of evil. Then, Wallace took this selfie, and all athletes were shown being united as one. Wallace had his car painted with the hashtag Black Lives Matter prior to Talladega. This was during the 2020 protest that shook America when Derek Chauvin suffocated Minneapolis resident and father George Floyd. Published in July 2020, Bloomberg wrote of an audience study by Performance Research, a Rhode Island-based firm that specializes in market and sponsorship analysis in the wake of driver Bubba Wallace's decision to call for a ban on the Confederate flag at NASCAR events. Fans over the age of 40 showed 53% support for the circuit's decision. Those under 40 supported the measure by 76%. Among black respondents, the figure was 77%.
At one time, you were the sole black man driving for NASCAR. Now Bubba Wallace is.
One of only 4 black drivers to compete in NASCAR's top series is Bill Lester, seen here via CNN.
When you were driving at NASCAR, was there a lot of overt racism? Did you feel welcome?
You know, I really didn't feel very welcome. I was booed at a number of tracks on the circuit and didn't understand why. Talladega, where he's competing today, is one of those tracks. It's very difficult, some of these environments, and some of the fans that are there, they just live in a time warp. It's no reason for them to continue to try to use the rebel flag as their symbol. They should be using the American flag. And as far as Bubba is concerned, I mean, I have so much support for him, and I commend him on what he's doing, the stand he's taken, and the position he continues to put forward as far as equality and justice. It's not a Black Lives Matter to the exclusion of everybody else. It's we matter too. Black lives matter just as much as everybody else's. And, you know, a a lot of those folks have that message twisted. They believe that we should be above everybody else or something to that degree from what I've read on social media, and nothing could be further from the truth.
There was no awareness during the mid-20s, Lester said. It took a movement, such as Black Lives Matter and the atrocities that have taken place with George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and Breonna Taylor to really get us organized so that we've said enough. We're tired of being tired. We're tired of the inequality and the disparities and the targeting, the profiling. Now that there has been such a public outcry, the opportunity was right for NASCAR, for Bubba to do what he did, and for NASCAR to do the right thing. That was something I would have loved to seen happen back when I was racing in the mid-2000s, but I was on an island. The New York Times provided some context to what it's like being a black NASCAR fan. They speak with Demetrius Pickens, who tells them the story of what he saw after the protests in Ferguson, Missouri some years ago after Officer Darren Wilson got off for firing his weapon and killing Michael Brown. You see the story the Times shares with Pickens telling Andrew Kay the following: "It was like an empty gut feeling. One of those moments where anger immediately rushed over my body," said Pickens, who wanted to pop the balloon but thought better of it after considering how outnumbered he felt and what might happen next. "I knew where I was, but you still never want to be blatantly smacked in the face with overt racism. Being a black fan of NASCAR, they say, means having fun while never feeling 100% at ease. It means jokes from friends and family members. It means watching the sport religiously on TV but having reservations about seeing a race in person. It means keeping your head on a swivel at the racetrack and, at the same time, diverting your eyes from various discomfiting sights." Each driver in succession, from Wendell Scott to Willie T. Ribbs to myself to Bubba, Lester says, has enjoyed the environment to be a little more accommodating than the prior driver. "It was difficult for me to be out in those races in the Deep South, in those venues where a lot of those fans made it very clear I wasn't welcome," he said. "I've been booed during driver intros before. It was very clear that as I would pass through the parking lot to get to the racetrack, that fingers pointed and conversation stopped. I've heard the N-word murmured. It was a very uncomfortable environment, and even though change is in the air, it's not going to happen overnight."